Hello, hello. It's Sarah from Labs, and I'm going to be walking through some of the latest releases we've added to Labs Plus. So, the focus today is Symphonic Brass and Woodwinds. What's really exciting about these packs is that they're all pulled from Spitfire Symphony Orchestra, which is Spitfire's big flagship orchestral library. So, I'm going to start with the two brass packs that have just been released. We've split them up into trombones and tuba versus trumpets and horns. Trombones and tuba, these are the powerhouses of the orchestra. They can produce really, really powerful, loud, blaring sounds. They're quite deep, so you can use them in the lowest frequencies of your mix. And they can also really just pack your track or your scene with a lot of action, which you can tell from the name. So let's hear some of the bass. Listen to how powerful you could get. We can control the release after we finish playing the note, and this is the case with all of our long patches for the symphonic series. That's a long release, and here's a really short release. So the sound just cuts off. It's really nice to be able to control that. We can control the reverb, which is really important because all of these instruments were recorded in Lyndhurst Hall at Air Studios, which is a really, really big space. The reverb in there is top of the line. I mean, we literally sell the reverb as one of our products at Spitfire. So it's an incredible, incredible sound, but you don't always want it. And it can really muddy up your mix. So as dry as it can be. Generally, for long sounds, you'll want a little bit of reverb. And here's fully wet. Generally, for these lower brass instruments, you want to spread your chords out more. You want them to be more open rather than clustered up. And then I'm showing you all these controls just with the bass trombones, but you can control all of the long notes in a similar way. I want to show you how the different vibrato settings sound. So this is just straight playing with no fluctuation in pitch. And that's pretty normal to hear. And this is maximum vibrato. See the word staccato next to a lot of these presets. And if you don't know that word, it is the name of the playing style when players are doing short notes with quick attacks. Let me just play it. One other thing I want to explain that you'll be seeing in the presets is this A2 word. All that means is there are two players in this recording. So lots of the instruments we have with two players playing at the same time, but we also have some solos for certain instruments. So one of them is tenor trombone. We get a solo, so this is just one player. And so, like I said, the tenor can reach higher registers and is not quite as powerful in the low end. So that is a warmer sound than you're getting with the bass, and it is, to me, sounds more like a horn. We've got short notes with the solo, short notes with the two-player ensemble. And then we've got the tuba, which is such a slept-on instrument. It can do so much more than people know. I mean, often when we use the tuba in a traditional context, we give it like the bass notes. It functions as the bass of a piece. It can get so low. I suggest people who aren't familiar with these instruments go in and really play around with them and get to know the sound, because upon first hearing these sounds, especially like the low brass, they probably sound quite similar, but as you keep playing and experimenting, you can really hear the difference. Okay, so to showcase some of these sounds, I'm just gonna layer them on top of some loops I made with Labs. A lot of them are presets that are just already loops, which is super handy for my purposes here. So anyway, here's some Amapiano loops. What's great about the short notes is that we have specially programmed them so that if you play the same note over and over again, it's not going to sound robotic. It's going to sound very natural because we have recorded many layers for each pitch. And that's something called round robins, if you've heard that term. So it's definitely easy to make it sound like a real person's playing, even though I'm on a MIDI keyboard. Here's some bass trombones in context. So that's fun. That's a overview of the trombones and tubas pack. Now we're going to move on to the horns and the trumpets, which are in the higher register of an orchestral brass section. Okay, so similar to the trombones and tuba, we've got some long notes and some short notes. But in addition, we have some new techniques here, which I'll get into in a second. So first we have two horns playing long notes. So that's at the loudest dynamic. This dynamic CC is really, really impactful for horn instruments. So I encourage you to get in there and really explore all the different dynamic layers, because horns, when they're playing at their loudest dynamic, can pierce through any sound, which is really special, but you have to be careful. So. So yeah, the horns have a nice range. You can play with the release and the reverb like before. So here's the dry. I'll do some dry short notes with the horns, with low reverb, high tightness. Yeah, that's the short. That's how the staccatissimo sounds for the horns. Staccatissimo is very similar to staccato. It's the short note, but staccatissimo specifically it's just very short. There's one special technique here called stopped. All this means is the horn player has put their hand into the bell to create sort of a muting effect. But by closing the bell off, it creates this very buzzy sound, which can very much pierce through a mix more than any of the other sounds. and then trumpets, we have some long notes. Again, with all these brass instruments, it's really important to play around with the dynamics and find that sweet spot. Trumpets can do a really nice vibrato, so this is how all the different vibratos sound. I'm just going to start with nothing and go to the maximum. So that's a really, really nice trumpet. We have a muted trumpet and some short trumpet notes. So those are the short trumpets. Now let's do something pretty. Let's do something pretty with the long horns. That was fun. What else we got? What else can we showcase? Oh, that's nice, yeah. Let's get some horns in here. So this is a nice little loop I made with the auto harp. And I think some horns would be nice here because the horns create a really nice soft texture. If you use them right, if you have them at their lowest dynamic. Okay, let's get some trumpet here. So this is some Labs drum loops. I love short trumpets. They just add little pops of color, like little drops into your mix. And they always add a little intrigue. Before I move on to the woodwinds, I just want to show a little trick. If you want to record some MIDI, but throw it onto multiple tracks at once. So say I don't want just the trumpets playing, I want the trumpets and the horns. All you have to do is hit that R. So this is a logic trick. Hit that R on both tracks. And then when you go to record, it'll input the MIDI into both of them. And then you'll also like have a full trumpet and horn section instead of just one or the other. That's basically the overview of the brass packs that we've added to Labs Plus. I didn't go through every single control, every single dynamic layer. So go in, have a play. There's a free trial for a reason. Okay, so just like the brass packs, we have split the major woodwind instruments, the most popular ones, into 2 packs. You've got the flutes and clarinet pack, and then the oboes and bassoons pack. How do you decide which one you want to download? You could download both and play around, but the distinction here is that for me, flutes and clarinet are more mellow and not when they play short notes, it's not quite as crisp. Whereas oboes and bassoons, you can get a really crisp short note or staccato, which we now know. And they're in the same sort of reed family. You'll hear they have a similar type of tone. It's sort of, I don't want to be rude and say nasally because I love these instruments, but it's a bit more nasally than the flutes and clarinets, which are more mellow, soft. But really what you should do is just go in and download them both and try it all out. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with some clarinets, shall we? So that's with a long release. Let's play around with this. So the reverb can get really crazy like I showed before. I want to take the release down, make it as dry as possible. I want to go in here with a soft clarinet to show you how nice and mellow it can be. With the clarinets, we have this vibrato setting, and right now it's turned all the way up. But really, clarinets are more traditionally playing with no vibrato at all. So here's how that sounds. Even more mellow. Because you're getting Spitfire Symphony Orchestra samples, you're getting the most detailed and deep samples. I'm having so much fun weaving through all the dynamic layers and teasing out the different playing styles of these performers. It's really quite fun. So have a play. There's so many different sounds you can pull from all these instruments. So yeah, the short clarinets are really fun. They've got some mischief in them. So we've got flutes here as well. Okay, that's with the vibrato all the way up. Flutes, on the other hand, in contrast to the clarinets, they are very, very vibrato forward instruments. So, like, the default is to play with lots of vibrato. Luckily, the vibrato is so nicely sampled, so you can get just a flat pitch, or you can get the good stuff. I think it's nice to have a really good CC controller so that when you're playing instruments like the flute, increase the vibrato in a really natural way. So like as you're ascending, as you're developing a phrase and moving to higher pitches, it makes sense to also increase the vibrato with it. So and then, of course, if we go to this like prettier loop with the auto harp, and then we should probably bring in some long flute notes. It feels right. You get it. The flutes are really pretty. Everybody knows that. So that's some of the flutes and clarinets. Then just quickly, the oboes and bassoons. Here's what we're working with. So the bassoon it's in the name. It's good for bass frequencies. It's useful for adding some bass notes, but it's also really lyrical. And so it's a really good solo instrument as well. So in this pack, we have a single bassoon playing long notes, but we also have the A2 option. So the option of two people playing at once. I'm going to show you some of the bass functions, but also the solo functionality it has. Then we have the oboe. Okay, so the oboe has a similar sort of tone to the bassoon. It's really reedy, if that means anything to you. but it's also similarly super expressive, and it plays in a much higher register than the bassoon. So yeah, I think for me, with an oboe, as soon as you hear it, you can recognize it. Whereas with the clarinet, it's more mellow and blends into things. And so, there's nothing wrong with that. It just changes the way I like to use it. So I like to use it in a very explicit way, like clearly there's an oboe here. Oboes and bassoons are really good with short notes. They have a really quick attack and it's very clean. So here's some short notes on the bassoon. And then oboes. So I'm playing some of the motifs I was playing on some of the other instruments, but it really works for the oboe as well. And then if we want to maybe add a little oboe solo, that would work as well. That was the Symphonic Woodwinds and Symphonic Brass packs. Both are newly released to Labs Plus. Go try them out. There's a 14-day free trial, so there's really nothing to lose. Yeah, thank you for watching the video, and I hope that was helpful and you got some inspiration from some of these sounds.